All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk. Today is Monday. What an exciting week we're going to have this week. This week is dedicated to female photographers, women photographers doing amazing work in the industry, both fashion and wildlife of all places. So today we have a fashion photographer with us, fashion celebrity photographer, Zoey Grossman joining me. And I'm so excited to have this moment in time with you because we both
Me
are
too.
in the industry. We kind of do the similar stuff, but we
Totally.
never got to meet. So
I
I'm so
know.
happy we
Me
get to meet
too.
today.
Me too. This is so great. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Well, thank you for being here. How are you doing, first of all?
I mean, I'm good. I think I'm like everyone else where some days are, up and scary, or I'm sorry, some days are up and I'm feeling positive, and then some days are kind of unsure and scary. But, I think having a positive outlook have been helpful to me. So I think I'm okay. And I do feel weird saying I'm okay, but I am okay. How
Yeah,
are you?
I can completely understand that. And I've been watching you on all the different lives, inspiring people out there with all your different
Oh,
IG
thank
lives.
you.
And I religiously follow them and watch them. And you've been such a great, amazing light to so many of us out there. Not just
Oh,
in,
thank
not
you.
just in photography, but just in your attitude, how you're moving forward during this time. That's what we all need. We all
Yeah.
need to kind of support each other,
Yeah.
help each other,
I
And
think that's what this time is. I totally agree.
well, this week we're focusing on women photographers because I think it's so important to put a spotlight on women photographers because and I know in the industry of fashion photography, celebrity photography is overly dominated by male photographers.
Yeah.
And and I love how time changes, how Thai comes in and goes out in our industry. And the Thai is on the side of feminism and on the side of women empowerment. And what better time to really showcase your work? So I love
Thank
the fact
you.
that we get to see your work all over the place, from Vogue to Harper's Bazaar. And reason I can say that because our career had a parallel path. We're both in Los Angeles,
I know. I'm like, but yes, we are. We are.
and we could talk a little bit about that and what that means being in Los Angeles and trying to break through in the industry. But I
Yeah.
have seen your work grow over all these years. And
Thank
when
you.
the moment your trajectory took off, it flew so far high and so fast. And I am
Mm.
so proud of you
Thank
and an
you.
honor to have you here
Oh
with
my
me.
God. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate it from your perspective because I'm sure you feel the same way too, but when it's you, it never, or when, for me, it never, I'm like, oh God, it never feels like that.
Yeah,
So it's,
thank
thank
you.
you for saying that.
Well, let's talk about that. When did
Yes.
what was it that made you decide that you want to be a photographer?
God, honestly, when I look back now, I was like obsessed with, remember like Fashion Cafe and Fashion TV in the 90s, and just I don't even know why I was just obsessed with like beautiful women and just kind of in awe of them and always loving, Avedon and Versace and all these things that inspired me when I was a kid, but I never understood what that was. I just was kind of drawn to that, which photography and fashion and the creativity in that. I don't think there was one specific thing that drew me into it, but I knew from a young age that that was what I was kind of drawn to, and then over
You
time. Hmm?
you always love beauty, you
I
always love
did.
fashion, you
Yes,
always thought that's something that you would want to be part of.
I did, but also I think, something to mention is I always felt like an outsider, so I was never, like, cool, and um I just was never the cool person, and I was bullied a lot, so I always loved it from afar and kind of secretly, never thinking that, like, it could be something that I could be a part of. And so, you know, I think I've only found my confidence recently in my place in the industry, and I'm still trying to find it. But yes, so yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. What do you mean by being bullied a lot? Is it because just where you lived, or what is it that people didn't understand your artistry when you were growing up? Because I can echo the same growing up in the United States as an
Yeah,
immigrant and living in the middle of America, then moved to California. I never thought photography would be anything I wanted to be
yeah,
involved with, but being bullied seemed to be, it happens a lot with us who are in the creative field.
totally. I mean, I agree with you, and I think sometimes if you're sensitive and a little bit shy and quiet, it's like an easy target for people who are much more confident in themselves at a young age to kind of like attack something. I just think that's human nature, and I don't like blame anyone. I wouldn't say like I'm grateful for the experience, but honestly, I think it helped
Mm.
me be more sensitive to what I do today and my creativity. So yeah, I was picked on. I grew up in LA. I mean, I think there were like cool, kids in LA that really had their shit together, and or they seemed to, because I didn't. and just thought, had more confidence than I did. And then I was just an easy target. And so I had a best friend, but I was like a loner. And so I think that forced me to be really internal, and kind of introverted, and kind of go towards my creativity and my, passion of art.
I truly believe that. Then I watch now with younger kids too, and I have a godson. I'm watching him growing up right now. He's 6 years old, and I can see in him and his friends that these kids who are a little bit quieter, who are more internalizing, and who are in a way a little bit more loner and a little bit able to be independent, are the truly the creative ones that who are thinking and who are brewing and developing
Yeah.
on their own in their own way. And you're absolutely right. I know that all this hardship that we go through shapes us and help us. But
Yeah.
one thing that I do echo this a lot, I said this a lot on the show, is that when people say, oh, these hardship made me who I am today, I actually like to change the dynamic of that conversation. And that is,
Mhm.
if you're not who you are already today, you would not have the ability to go on through the time when people are bullying you. And that's a
True.
much more powerful message for, I think, young kids. When you
That's a
look
good
at them, goes,
point.
oh, don't worry, keep getting bullied because it'll make you stronger, give you a thicker skin. That's
Mhm.
not, I don't believe in that philosophy of
Yeah,
teaching. I'd
I
rather
do.
empower them. You are powerful, and therefore you're able to go through this
Totally.
because you're given, then the universe
The
is giving you the
tools,
power,
yeah.
right?
Some
You know
people
what I
don't
mean?
have those tools. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that's a good
And
point.
that is that literally is a philosophy how I felt that I was able to get through this, get into this industry, because it's not easy. As I
Yeah.
said earlier on top of the show, that this is a very male dominated field. As a woman, want to be creative in this field, did you feel like there were a lot of hurdles that you had to jump over?
That's such an interesting question, and I wanna answer it honestly because I think when you already feel like an outsider, like, because I already felt like an outsider, I think going into this industry, I already knew I didn't know, but I felt like, okay, it hasn't been easy, so I'm kind of used to that already. Um,
Interesting.
and I'm not saying that I don't even know if I was aware that it was as male dominated as it was, which I think maybe it was actually a great thing because I don't think it let it stop me from trying.
Well,
And I don't want to, I've never, it's weird because I've never come from that place of thinking I'm a woman and I'm a woman photographer. I almost feel gender neutral, which I know is very maybe weird to say or a weird concept, but I don't look at myself as being a woman or a woman photographer. I know that it's been like an advantage recently, but I think when I approach it, I just approach it as like, what do I want to say? What is the work I want to do? I've never felt kind of oppressed by um, having it be male dominated. Some of my
so
favorite photographers are men, just because I love their work. Also, I mean, does that kind of answer the question?
it does, and but it's interesting because that you didn't think that being a woman would actually slow you down or hinder you, that you never took that as an excuse
Yeah,
to move
exactly.
forward. And
Totally.
that's really powerful because I know I wasn't that brave. I definitely was one of those people who questioned, am I going to make it in this
Oh
industry
my
because
God,
I'm from
no.
Los Angeles? Am I
I
going to?
felt that too. I totally felt that. Oh my God. I question myself all the time. I'm like, do I suck? Am I good enough? Maybe I do suck. I'm totally with like that perspective. I just really never thought that being a woman, that's not exactly true. I mean, I realized that I wasn't getting as many jobs as maybe men have were, but I wasn't bitter about it, and I wasn't thinking, oh God, when I'm a woman, whatever, this sucks. I was just thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna have to work, maybe try and open this door or work harder in this way. But I wasn't gonna let it stop me, even though I felt not great about myself, maybe in general.
Well, that's so powerful. That's so powerful for women out there, to empower them to know that it's not, you never took gender as a hindrance. That's
Yeah,
what I meant. That
yeah, yeah,
and
totally.
that's so important because for me, different journey for different people, that I definitely at time go, am I not getting hired because I'm Asian, or am I not getting hired because I'm gay, or am I not getting hired because geographically
Yeah,
where I live?
yeah.
And we often don't ask the question, am I not getting hired because of my skill? Like
Mhm,
somehow as an artist, we forget what we create is art. And then
mhm.
we start judging ourselves everything but the art. We start judging who we
Interesting.
are as human
Yeah,
beings
yeah.
constantly. Because I come from advertising background in New York. That's where I used to work. And then and when I transitioned into photography, I never thought how crazy and hard and how much judgment it's in our industry,
Yeah, yeah.
that we have a tendency to categorize people. I'm doing that today. I'm saying you're a woman photographer,
Mhm,
female photographer,
totally.
and that And I want our audience to know that reason I put that categorization that because women are marginalized in our industry.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry to say.
No, it's
And
true.
there are Annie Leibovitz, and there's Ellen Marworth, Diane Arbus back in the day,
Mhm.
there's Nan Golden, there's Mary Ellen Mark. These are the people that I was inspired by
Yeah.
to become a photographer. I didn't look at the contemporary of Mario Testino's, and I
Mhm.
didn't look at Stephen Mazel. Honestly, for me,
Mhm.
I was so fascinated with women capture women,
Mhm.
and for me that's what was the inspiration to want to be a photographer. And I chose in the early beginning of my career is to work with women directors and start writing treatments with them and start learning to speak in their voice.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a woman. I'm not transvestite, guys. I didn't want to be a transgender. I never went through that. For it could have been cool actually, because it's so cool now. No, but
Anything.
I didn't have that depth. I didn't have that journey. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I want to truly understand what it meant to have that knowledge. Why is Cindy Sherman can speak the way she speaks and being
Mhm.
a woman that she is and so powerful and speaking in a man's voice, but still being
Mhm.
a woman. I think that's what about your work I got really fascinated by too. When I started seeing you started shooting, we share a lot of same clients, we share a lot of same
Totally.
models. And when you have somebody that's take a model, for example, when you shoot someone who's so famous like Gigi Hadid
Mhm.
that I work with, and you start shooting Bella and Gigi, I was on the edge of my chair going, how well Zoey captured them?
Oh,
Because we
thank
know it
you.
would be very different. It's
Totally.
completely different. And that segments too. How do you see your own work that defines you as a photographer?
I think, I mean, that in that way, being a woman, I think I'm trying to say this in a way that will make sense. I am a woman, so I have, I think, a lot of the insecurities that a woman would have. I'm not saying men
Mm,
don't. I think maybe men do, but they maybe articulate it or comprehend it in a different way. And some men don't. Some men do it in a similar way too. But I think for me, when I look at a woman, I'm almost like projecting her onto myself and myself onto her, and it's almost like if I were her, how would I think I was the most beautiful?
mm,
Or I'm not even sure how to explain it. I can almost like transport myself into their psyche and then work with them to kind of figure out what the most beautiful position or angle or whatever that something is. So I think we're connected on like maybe a feminine level, if that makes sense, with certain energy.
absolutely,
But not only a woman
absolutely.
has to have that. I think inherently, if you're a woman and a woman, you have
Mm,
that together.
mm,
But I think that's something that has defined some of my work. I love women. I want them to feel and be beautiful. I'm not competitive with women, and I never have been. It's probably also because I was bullied by girls, so I was like, this doesn't make sense. It
that's
all goes
right.
back to childhood. But I genuinely want them to feel good and like I want to make them look good. And I've always loved sexy, beautiful women. I just always have. So for me, that's been like really exciting to shoot and to kind of find that when I'm shooting someone like that.
Well, it's also the industry has redefined that word sexy and empowerment
Yeah.
over the years, right? The last 10 years ago, as a photographer that I treasured and became myself is these Sports Illustrated women on the beach showing their assets in
Mhm.
every way possible. And it's very heavy handed. I'll be the first to admit, because we are trained by what we see. Like when you
Yeah.
open Vogue with Helmut Newton showing women in the
Mhm.
skinniest, smallest pieces of clothing and with a handicap, brace on, and that's considered fashion and that's considered woman
Mhm.
empowerment. Or that's what I was being taught when I got into fashion
Interesting.
industry. And that's what I thought that how women wanted to feel.
Yeah,
But in
interesting.
reality, maybe fashionable at that time, but that still wasn't a woman's voice. That's what I've come to
Mhm.
have learned over the years,
Mhm.
right? That's a voice from all intents and purposes, from a man who think what a woman
Yeah.
empowerment images looks like.
Mhm.
And what an amazing special time that we have now that through Me Too, all the silver lining that come out of all that, and
Mhm.
about time, I have to say, because I lived in the industry, I'll be the first to know how the industry has a lot of things that we need to change. And that movement have now put women up front and personal with their work. and especially I feel like you have more responsibility now than I ever had as a photographer, how you portray women from a woman's
Thank
perspective.
you.
I think that is actually more pressure now than a
That's for
male
sure.
photographer like me showing up and do my thing. But you are exemplifying what women want to see and from women's point of view. That is so important.
Thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate that, and thank you. And I mean, I never thought about it like that, so you're teaching me something.
No,
Um,
but we see that in your work. We
Thank you.
see we see it in the transitions, and I know these guys, everybody's saying yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
and it's true because here I shop for Victoria's Secret, I
Mhm.
shop for Guess, I shop for Sports Illustrated, and I still do these brands. Is that, and I was known, as you know, as a sexy photographer. Any woman who wants to feel like they want to be sexy, they show up on my shoot. I
Mhm.
never ever have to ask, "Do you want to get naked?" They usually get naked
Mhm.
before. I'm like, "Well, what? Why are you naked already? We need to shoot
That's what
fashion
you're known
first."
for.
I'm like, I understand you feel comfortable, but can
Mhm.
we get some clothing on
But that's
first?
actually a good I think for someone to feel comfortable like that is also a good quality, and I think that is, something that not every photographer has. If you can make someone feel comfortable like that,
Oh,
that's,
thank you.
it's lucky.
Yeah,
Great.
but but what's interesting through the time has evolved that then we begin to see that, okay, how do you look at a nude versus how I look at a nude? It's completely different. And that's what
Mhm.
makes photography such a wonderful, amazing career because no two pair of eyes and are the same. We see the world through our own insecurities, like you
Yes.
said, through our own history. And I'm trying to still figure out why I wanted girls naked all the time when I first started shooting. You know what?
So
Maybe because the stylists out there wouldn't send me clothes in the
you're
beginning.
like, "We have to make something work, okay?"
It's true. But again, it is truly at that time that the education at that time that if you want to be beautiful, then you take your clothes off. How
Mm.
wonderful it is now that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
I think I say you because you truly to me is a new darling in the fashion industry.
Oh,
You
thank
have such a
you.
perspective of your work. Whether you know it or not, we
I
other
know.
photographers out there and other male photographer in particularly because we hear all the noise out there when the tide changed,
Mm.
when we all the male photographer, and I'm going to say it for you guys out there, so don't pretend you don't know, you all were scared, you were all
Really?
scared of female
I'm so
photographer like
sorry.
Zoey coming into the scene, and the fact that you were already in the scene, you just the spotlight came
It's
on
like
you.
it's been years. No, but I know.
Years. She worked really hard, you guys.
I did.
Really, really hard. I know because girls would come from my set and they would go, I'm going to Zoe's set after. They would go, that's why we started sharing the same models all the
Mhm.
time. A
Totally.
hair, makeup. Listen, I'll tell you, there's a hairstylist and makeup artist. Let me know you were coming before you were coming. They were like, this girl is doing something
We
great.
both know about that.
but but those are the things that actually celebrates our work. And those are the things that I feel like it keeps me going. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, there are please. There's so many jobs out there. You guys are photographer.
I
You
know
guys
there
out there.
are.
If you worry about one photographer taking your job, you cannot be in this industry. You just can't.
No,
You just gotta
exactly.
move on and go do something else because
It's so true.
and we yes, when it happened, when Zoe hit the scene, you don't know it, but I'm going to tell you now. You're going to own it. You resilient light on you. All the eyeballs were on your work. And when you started publishing the way you did, when you worked with Alex Campbell, which I love for many
Oh,
years, with
yes.
Cosmo, and I know she's all about women empowerment,
Which
creativity. And
is
when she
cool.
put you in Harper's Bazaar
I
right
know.
off the bat, you
Awesome.
know, it was incredible to see the
Yeah.
Disneyland story with the
Oh,
Asian
thank
model.
you. Yeah.
And look, I have chills
Yeah.
because I'm
Oh
like,
my
you know, I'm
god.
not gonna lie, I was jealous. I was like, God, yeah, that's
Really?
so
Oh my
good.
god. Thank you.
I was like, that is so good. But honestly, it was because I thought, okay, finally, we have the Allen Awards, we have the Emmy Awards, and we almost put them in a different category already. They're the
Mhm.
icons. We expect them to do what they do. But let's
Mhm.
now talk about the contemporary artists of today, how you guys begin to take on the responsibility. And I think that's the word. I think we have to be so responsible now with the imagery we put out there.
Mhm.
And how we capture those images are so very important. God
Mhm.
knows I have to change the way I work.
I think we all do though. I think it's honestly universal, and I think that we're all being faced with like, we have to be a part of the change that we want to see, whether we're female, whether we're male, whether we're whoever. Like we have no choice.
Mm.
So I think that's something that we all share and we all have in common. We have to.
Well, I instead of shying away from being a female photographer, I think you should raise a giant big flag and just keep
I'm
waving.
gonna try. God, I think this is like a therapy session. This is great for me.
Because look at what happened recently that we both got to see a brand that you and I both have worked for, Victoria's Secret. The moment the wave, the changing of the guards, and we're not going into the politics, you
Mm.
guys, but changing of the guards, when it happened, when the old team left, when new team came in, started embracing diversity. When Juju, my little beautiful little Korean girl, actually is in Victoria's Secret as a 100% Asian woman for the first time, and seeing Jasmine Sander, who is a black
Oh yeah.
woman, embraces her curls and shows up on Victoria's Secret for the first time. That to me is when I knew all the stuff that people are afraid of, they should be afraid of because change is coming. And
Yeah,
being
yeah,
part of that
changes.
change is incredible. I want you to really
Yeah.
treasure that. And when I see your work, how you begin to capture women for Victoria's Secret, how you start shaping a brand that desperately, we all know, needs help right now. They need as much as help they can to change the conversation. Seeing Helena Christensen shooting
I
campaigns for
know,
them
which was amazing. So
is
cool.
incredible.
Yeah,
Now,
she's awesome.
listen, ain't gonna lie, I wish I was shooting for them right now, but that's a different conversation.
Well,
They got my number,
you're
but
like, call me. No.
no, time is different because I know my place. It's
Mm,
interesting that one thing that I had to learn is that I know my work and I know my place. I know what strength I can bring, and
mm,
and and when my work speaks the right tone and right language for the time that the universe needs,
mm.
it will resolve itself.
It
And
connects. Yeah, it connects.
doesn't that
Yeah.
make sense? Does that make sense? Because
Totally. It absolutely makes sense.
because
Yes.
the fact that you look at your work that you did 10 years ago, it's no different what you're doing today.
Well, I think is it? I think it's slowly
No,
getting better, but
no,
it's
it's not. No, I'm not saying quality. I'm talking about the
oh,
mission, the
yes.
voice,
Okay, okay, got it. Yeah, it's a good point. That's a good
right?
point.
We're all going to get technically better as we
Yes.
go, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes I feel
true.
like getting worse, but
Yeah. I think we all go forward and back. It's true.
we're like, what happened to that
I know, you're
lighting
like,
today?
odd. No, but I think that's a good point. With Victoria's Secret, it's I remember getting the catalogs when I was really young and being
Mm,
obsessed again with like the catalogs and
obsessed.
always wanting to shoot for them, like always. So it was always a dream of mine, at the top of my dream list to be able to shoot for them. And I had little opportunities, in and out with them that weren't consistent. But you're absolutely right. Like, recently with all this stuff going on, I've had more opportunities to shoot with them, which I was so excited about because again, it's like, you never want to feel like your success is coming at the expense of anyone else. Or I never want to feel like that. So I never looked at it like that. I was thinking, okay, this is like an opportunity, like you said. And are they wanting to hire more female photographers? Yes. And I am a woman, so
About
I've got to
time.
embrace that. Absolutely. And like giving, I think all companies kind of giving women and people that are not as safe or comfortable to them a chance is like really amazing and important. And we were talking about this earlier that like, mistakes are okay and like people make mistakes, the world make mistakes. And like, the only time sometimes the only way to learn from things, and it's exactly what's happening right now with everything going on, is like everyone's making a mistake and we all have to learn from it. And the only way to move forward is to learn from it. And that's great. And I want to support people who are willing to change. And that's what's important to me also, is not like um harping on the things that they did wrong. I think obviously, you have to be held accountable, but at the same
Sure.
time, if someone's willing to move forward and change, then, yes, I think that's
Absolutely.
important.
And that is the responsibility of our work, because our work is our voice, right?
Yeah.
It is the I will have to say that when I go back and begin to look at my 20 years worth of work. Oof, yesterday was my birthday, so it was a day of reflection about what have I done with my life. And
A
and
lot, actually.
and then I actually have and I was preparing my talk with you, and I thought, wow, from the days I loved Diane Arbus's work
Yeah.
to now looking at your work and that spectrum of women photographers, how much I actually have been influenced by them that I never really
You
recognized.
realize, yeah.
And then be able to see the contemporary art that's changing, and it's not just in photography, you guys out there, it's changing the contemporary arts, it's changing in the
Yeah.
modern arts, it's changing the dance, it's changing in all the creativities that, and it's changing the CEO position. We have one women CEOs out there.
Yes.
And I know earlier you said that you don't use women as a voice to as your departure meter, but I feel
Mhm,
like if any time's a better time to own that word female and
mhm,
feminism, and
mhm,
it's now because
mhm,
we need that. We absolutely need that. Because for me, I always joke when I shoot for Sports Illustrated and we do these talk and I'm only male up there on stage
mhm.
sometimes all the time. And I'm just like, girls, I'm just part of you guys, okay? I
I
just
mean,
this
how
is
does that
how
feel for yeah, how does that feel for you? Do you know are you, like, aware of that on set or no?
absolutely.
Mhm,
And I grew up very asexual. Being gay, whatever, that came much later because I didn't even know what that
mhm,
meant. It
mhm.
sounds really crazy, but I
No.
was so oblivious to my own skin in every way.
Mhm.
I didn't even know didn't think I was Asian until much later because I would show up for casting for TV shows. I want to be an actor. I would show up when they're asking for a white guy. I'm like, why can't I play that part? I
I mean,
was
that's
so
amazing.
I was so ignorant in that
No,
way.
but
But
you
you
were
know what I
just in
mean?
your body, which is better
Right.
than yeah, yeah,
Because to
yeah.
me, it was literally like, I know you want a white guy, but Asian guy can play that part. Why not? And it took him 20
Mhm.
years to figure that out now, thank God. But but I did get parts because I showed up the wrong time and be making it kind of for myself at the time.
Well, yes, and I actually think that's a great point. It's kind of what we're both saying is, like, you're saying that you didn't let that like, hinder you
Yes,
or hold you back, and I'm saying I didn't, realize being a woman was ever, like, a hindrance either, and I think, you know, to the people out there too, like, in our industry, I think you have to have a little bit of that in any industry.
yes.
Obviously insecurity, being self-conscious, like I feel that, but I think, being a little bit oblivious to like, the hurdles that you have to overcome and just thinking, and even if it's quietly inside thinking, of course I can do that. Like, yeah, that's a little bit of what you have to have, I think, to succeed in any business, especially now.
It's like, why not? Ask the
Yeah,
question, why not?
yeah,
Don't
exactly.
ask the question, am I the one? But why not? Why
Yeah.
not that I shouldn't be sure? Listen, I still email Anna Winter's email and she never answers,
I'm
but I
like,
will keep emailing her.
me too.
I probably go to a junk box, but one day she'll check her junk because we all check out junk box. But one
Yeah.
day you just see the stalker. And I email her as if we're best friends. Check out the latest work I'm doing. You might really enjoy this model I just found down the stream. They're nice. Yeah, we're
I
good
love that.
friends. She just doesn't realize it, but we're good friends.
No, but you have to. I think it's important to have that, and I think that's also a good message to send to everyone. Is like, there's going to be so many doors closed in everyone's face, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether
Mm,
whoever you are. It's like there's so many no's, and I think any successful person will tell you that there's a million no's and fewer yeses than there are no's. But like, you just have to keep knocking and keep going because it's like the typical story of someone who makes the underdog who like keeps pushing and pushing and pushing.
do you feel like you're an underdog? Do you feel like that?
I mean, I think I felt like that just because of, like, my childhood, so I carry that with me for
Mm.
sure. And I still feel, like, uncool, and I still feel like, will the fashion world accept me? I mean, seriously,
Uncool is a new cool, girl.
I think it might be
Uncool is a new
actually. It's
cool.
better
Okay.
to peak later, by the way, you guys, than, like, earlier. I will say that. It's better to be uncool and then cool later. But yeah, I think I totally feel like the underdog, and I'm okay with it, though. I'm not it's something that I think I might even use as a story to help myself keep
Mm.
motivated in a way. Um, but yeah, I mean, I admire who people who don't feel like the underdog 'cause I don't know what that feels like.
But
So,
and then Alexander joined in.
oh,
I listened to you guys talk for 2 hours the other day. But
yeah.
guys, so you out there, you want to listen to their conversation? I got introduced to his work through you, and brilliant work,
Oh,
Alexander. I love your work. It's beautiful. And then after I heard you guys talk, I understand how he sees the world and why his picture's the
totally.
way it is. It's so lovely. And I think, back to what you're saying is that it is true what we do and how we photograph people. It's a reflection of who we really see ourselves or
Yeah.
what we hope ourselves can become. And that's something that I will reference my own work and go, oh, I really want to be a superhero, didn't I, for a while?
Totally.
You know what I mean? I want these women to be majestic. I would dig
Yes.
a hole in the sand so I'm shooting way up on them, and I want them to be powerful and beautiful. And
Yeah.
that is a reflection of how we see, whether it's how we see our parents. Now that's another complex story. We'll deal with that on a different therapy session. but
Sketchy.
but but truly, it is. I think as I get older, as we get more mature, we begin to see our own work and understand why we work that way. And you were asking, what's it like being on set with Sports Illustrated and being on panel and speaking with MJ Data, editor in chief?
Yeah.
Is that I learned so much from these young women now that no longer I let me rephrase that. I had to understand that power is not in the camera because
Mm.
we're back in the days we'd look at that camera as that's the magic wand and that's the camera is magical, it shoots and it does what it needs
Mhm.
to do to capture that image. Through this time, I would say last 6 years with SI's relationship, what I've learned is that that's just a tool.
Mhm.
That's just a mirror. But what it is truly what's on the other side of it. I think I was able to learn not be behind the camera. I became more in front of the camera, then I can understand them. Perhaps it's what you're saying. To understand women, you have that special touch being a woman, so you understand. So for
Mhm.
me, I had to step away from behind the camera and
Mhm.
get on side by side with them and
Yeah.
talking to them, going through the process of casting with them and see why they want to be there. And then when I begin to hear their stories, I can have compassion, I can have empathy. Then I get behind
Mhm.
that camera again to photograph them. It's completely different in a way that I no longer objectify them like I
Mhm.
used to. And God knows, you know, when you get an assignment from magazine like Flaunt, oh yes, get everybody naked and objectify them because we're cool magazine, so we shoot people cool. So let's put black stuff on one face and yellow on the other, and then tape the eyebrow up. We can do that because we're cool. And we never asked if how does that make that model feel. And I do
Mhm.
think in the world we are now, model are now not model the collaborators. Because
I was
I
literally gonna say this, yes. Oh my god, you read my mind. I was gonna say the same thing. I was gonna say actually, I think, in the days of when I was growing up and being inspired by photographers, it was like the photographer had all the power on set and
yes.
they called the shots and it's almost like whatever the photographer said would go. In my experience, it's actually never been like that. So my frame of reference is always like, you know, being really sensitive to whoever I'm shooting on set. You have to collaborate nowadays, like you said, and everyone has such, much more of a voice. And so it really is much more of like a collaborative experience. And I think, that's part of the challenge and the blessing is like letting go of a little bit of control because we are all control freaks if we want to be in charge and holding the camera.
Yeah.
So I
We
think
chose that profession for a
I'm like
reason.
exactly being like malleable and open and compromising is something that is it's natural to me, but it's also hard at times because you think you want something and maybe things aren't clicking that way. So I think that's part of like the modern, photographer and what we're doing as people is like all about listening to the other person and compromising and still trying to find your voice in that too.
But don't you feel like that's what give you authenticity more than ever? It's
Yes,
less,
totally.
because when I look at my work from the past 10 years, 15 years ago, I mean, I'm proud of them. They're beautiful, but they are statuette and they are very distant. They might be cool,
Mm,
but they're distant. And they truly are just mannequins and statue. You could have put on a mannequin and shot the same exact thing. But what I find now is that when we become more aware and more collaborative, that you are trying to catch the essence of Bella while you're shooting a fashion story.
mhm,
Is Bella in fashion rather than fashion on Bella, or
mhm.
even an unknown model? You celebrate the unknown model and to put them forward rather than just celebrating the Gucci dress of the season. I think
Mhm.
that's what's beginning to change in our industry that I absolutely love.
Well,
Um,
you've seen both. So what do you think the turning point was for you? Because it's interesting you're able to reflect on your work and say, "Oh, I did do that," or "I did objectify them," or whatever. Like, what was the turning point for you to kind of step back and see it from a different perspective?
I have to say, when Me Too movement happened, when the it was very obvious in our industry, my agent called me and goes, "You're not going to get work for a while because you're a man. That's what's going to happen." And I go, "Well, but I'm gay. Don't I fall into a new category?" Because nope, you got
Really,
a
no.
penis. You ain't going to work for a while. I'm like, all right, well,
Oh.
but no, but that was okay because then I have to say, well, what is it about my work that's not speaking to women that think I can, celebrate them? So I begin to go back and reevaluate my work. And there's a body of work I'm really proud of. And I go, wait, there is a common thread. I do shoot them in a way that I respect them. I just need to edit. I had to
Mhm,
re-edit my book. I had to re-edit my work going, okay, these images are definitely more about me because my client was Esquire magazine. I'm shooting
mhm,
for men. My work
mhm,
was Sports Illustrated. So the conversation came with changes when I started talking to the editors. I called them. What is it about my work right now is not hireable? Not my
huh.
talent, just about my
And
work.
you asked them.
Yes. I go, what
Huh.
is it that you guys are looking for now that you feel a woman photographer can do that I cannot do? because I know I'm technical. If you ask me to change, I'll vary. You want me to shoot different style, I can. That's something I know I'm really strong at. One, they said, well, we definitely need to put female names on pages to really celebrate them. I said, good. Okay, what's the second thing? Because, well, we need to shoot from a woman's perspective more so. So I pair up with Health Magazine. As a magazine, here's another thing in the industry, guys. If you're shooting for Vogue and Harper's, you're not supposed to shoot health. I didn't give a shit. I went to find magazines that will embrace my work, will celebrate my work with me. I went back to Cosmo when I shot Cosmo for years and I moved down to Harper's. But I went back to Cosmo and said, how is Cosmo going to change your conversation about women? And how can I be part of it? Because I don't want to be marginalized because I'm a man in this industry, because I've always supported women. Maybe the perspective has to change, but I'll change with you. So that was my turning point when I sit down with MJ a day at Sports Illustrated. How do I shoot women so no longer is TNA? It's not about the tits or the ass. It's about what's inside them. What you're going to do as an editor to change me. And that's when it started shifting. And I started shooting for Rip Book, where you and I both know how narcissistic this industry is. Oh, you wouldn't shoot for Rip Book if you're shooting Harper's already. You shouldn't. Why would you? I went back to all the magazines my agent said to me that I should not shoot for.
Oh.
Like, oh, move on from Mary Claire. You're already doing this. I went back to them and said, let's have a conversation. I don't care how big the story, how small the story. I care about the message that we can put forward. So I went through a period of time. I started shooting beauty all over again. I went back to my.
It was like reflective and humbling in a way, and kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I had to learn the language. I go, but I love fashion. I know I love a bustier and the shirt off and that whole aesthetic that I go back to because it's my back pocket tool that everybody's gonna look at. Go, oh, it looks like numeral, but we didn't have to pay for that expensive photographer to shoot for numeral. You know what I'm talking about there, photographer. So don't even pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, so for me, I went back to the basic. I said, okay, if I need to celebrate women, then let me shoot beauty. Let me shoot here. And how do I capture Toni Garn right here and then be able to speak that she is celebrating her foundation, what she does for the children education, her voice. So I asked all these magazines, let me shoot beauty. They're like, what? You don't want to shoot fashion? I go, no, I just want to focus on the essence of beauty and let me work on that. And I'll slowly pull back. And I eventually did. But that was a turning point. I'm not a person that would sit back and let somebody dictate what my future will be.
Yeah.
I definitely one of those people like, okay, you're riding away. Guess what? There's room for another, and I want to come with you.
Yes, totally.
And we need more of that in our industry. We definitely need more of that in our industry, and that's why this week was so ever important for me. That to talk to you, to talk to other women photographers who, in fact, you guys are now paving the way for us. Whether or not we photographer out there will admit it or not, but you are. Because for the ones who are not willing to change and to shoot the same style they've been doing the last 10 years, you are going to go under that toll of the wave and going to pull you under and you will drown in this industry if you're not willing to change. It's not a day of Helmut Newton shoots one thing. It's not a day of Herbert shooting one lifestyle. It is not any longer because we're now inclusion. We have so much conversation happening at the same time, especially globally. Globally, we're having conversations now. We cannot be singular. We cannot have blindfolds on anymore. Sorry, I went to a soliloquy because I got all passionate about it.
No, I agree with you. I totally agree.
But that most importantly is that I want women out there, photographers, fashion stylists, makeup artists, really own the fact I'm here because I'm a woman. And I think now time is better than other. And if I could in any way to celebrate that with them, I'm honored. Truly.
Nice.
And because it's not, what am I going to do? Go in a corner and cry and go, oh, I'm not working because I'm not, what other excuses am I going to give myself? I've done that all my life. Oh, I'm too short, therefore I can't do this. I'm not hot enough, therefore I can't get that. I'm not gay enough, I can't get this. We make these excuses so much. I just don't want, for me, at least through this pandemic, I don't want those excuses, to be our barriers, to be able to communicate and be able to share.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes, and I think this is true throughout history and, with our industry too, it's like the pendulum, it swings so far one way and then it has to swing so far back the other way to then find its way in the middle. And I think like we've been, for the last, how many years, 50, a long time, it's been swinging so extremely, you know what I mean? And so maybe right now is an extreme way. And, who knows how it will find its way back to the middle, but I feel like it will at some point, you know?
But listen, along this way, inclusion is now a conversation we have.
Yes.
Sustainability in
Maybe
our
it was never an
business,
option before.
never.
Yeah.
Sustainability, it is so important.
Yeah.
And for me, being an Asian American, I am constantly asking the question, even the Asian community, why is a white person telling me how to do an Asian magazine?
Mhm.
I don't understand why. Well, I'm not going to mention the magazine because she might
Okay.
get mad at me. But you
Okay.
know what I'm talking about. Why is she telling me how to shoot an Asian person
Interesting.
when I understand my culture? And that's because
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Western cultures are very, very narcissistic. Look at the person we have. I mean, we're very,
It
we are
yeah.
because we are in a free world. Therefore, we feel like this. But listen to
Yeah,
others,
yeah.
guys. We're in a global pandemic. Start looking at other people's voice and other people's opinion. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to solve the same problem, and that's to make people happy. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I I always embrace commercial. I don't know about you. I was
Oh,
always
yeah.
a photographer. People go, "Oh
I
my
think
God,
it's
he
great.
shoots commercial. Oh my God, his work is so commercial." And
Guys,
I'm
commercials are
like,
a lot of money, isn't it? It's great.
why? I'm like, and why is that a bad word?
Yeah, I
Why
know,
is
it has
it
a bad
being a
connotation.
photographer living in Los Angeles a bad word? When you have an example here with Zoe, who grew up in this area, drink the water in LA, and
I drank the water,
breakthrough. She drank the
and
water, the Kool-Aid,
I
the
drank
LA
the LA
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid. But I
But
mean, I do think we still I think it's been, people are more open-minded, and like you said, we have to be for so many reasons. So LA is not as stigmatized. It is a little bit, I find myself kind of apologizing for it still.
I never do anymore. I'm like, you
You
guys,
don't,
you're lucky you have the sun. You're
but
just
people
jealous
love
because you
LA.
can't go to Malibu and shoot there every day.
People
Sorry.
love it. They're now understanding why it's so awesome.
They're
And
all closet LA lovers.
I
I'm
know.
sorry. They're in the closet. Come out of the closet,
I
people.
know. Come out of the LA closet.
They are in the
I
LA
know.
closet. Truly, truly. But this is what's exciting for me. Is to celebrate that you are Los Angeles born and you drank the water and you
Yeah, I
broke
should
through
embrace
in
it.
a
You're right.
and then I think that is something that we all can be inspired by because I definitely needed that when I was starting my industry. I knew
Yeah.
Herb was here. I got the opportunity to work with him on the post production side, and he was such an
Cool.
inspiration to me because nobody. His story is actually incredible. I don't know if you know,
I
but
don't know it.
he he was struggling trying to make it as a photographer for so long, and he almost gave up. And the last trip he took before he gave up to go to Paris, he took this unknown actor, Richard
Okay.
Gere,
Oh,
on a
okay,
road trip
perfect.
on a
Wow.
road trip to Vegas just because they were friends. Somewhere along the way, they stopped and shot a singular picture next to a gas station. 3, 4 months later, when he's in Paris, when he couldn't make any money, could not make it in the industry, nobody was hiring him. Richard Gere does a movie that became a mega star. Officer and the Gentleman. They needed a picture.
And that was the picture?
So that
Wow.
was the picture Vanity Fair took, published it.
Wow.
Overnight,
It
Herb
changed?
became
Wow.
everybody's name. That's what it one yes.
But does that happen anymore? Can your career really
One
change
yes.
overnight? Do you think it can? I don't
I
know.
do.
You
Yours
do?
did. I think yours did.
Really? You
I
think it
think so.
changed overnight?
I don't think it's a singular image anymore. I think
Mhm. Yeah.
it's a singular message. There's a difference.
Mhm. Mhm.
Herbert doesn't have a message or he's a singular voice, a singular image because Richard Gere's image made his image popular or
Mhm.
known. I mean, he was technically amazing, right? And then everything followed from that. But I think message because we know there are
Mhm.
photographers out there like I love Wolfgang Telsman's work. Is it appropriate for the world
Mhm.
that we're in right now? No, but I look at
Mhm.
his work and go, it was appropriate then, and it
Yeah,
sparked
yeah.
conversation,
Contact.
and so the context. So I think your work is that. When I look at your
Mhm.
work, and I feel like I'm judging you, but I'm not. I'm praising you. I
Judge
promise.
away.
Because that's the thing. When I look at photographers, I go back to where my advertising days. I look at the books
Mhm.
and go, what is this photographer trying to say and what they do,
Mhm.
and the message, the singular message that goes throughout. Now you have a quiet, really beautiful, quiet, a a a, a melodic, rhythmic to your work. Every page I turn of your work, I don't need to look at the name. I know that's you.
Wow, interesting.
And that's from an advertising editor's eye. For me, I
Mhm.
always look at it that way. And there's a softness to it. There's a quietness to it. But under that quietness, the model come through with strength. I think
Mhm.
that I can see in all your work. It doesn't matter all of a sudden you're shooting Harper's, you're shooting Al cover, by the way, beautiful covers.
Thank
They
you.
but
Mhm.
and also because I think and I know this actually now I think, is that our world has evolved that no longer they call Zoey Grossman Vogue photographer or Zoey Grossman Harvest photographer. They're calling
Mhm.
Zoey Grossman photographer.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
bring your work to that magazine. No longer does that magazine bring the note to you. And think that
Mhm.
changed in the last 5 years. Because
Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're
I
right.
know for a fact that you just didn't cross over. And when you did cross over at
Mhm.
times, they want you to shoot a particular way. But I
Mhm.
guarantee I can say this, and I know this when people hire you, they want Zoe. When you ask them, what do you want me to shoot? They say, we want Zoe, right? It's more now
Yeah.
than ever.
Yeah, it is more than ever, you're right, and I think, going back to your conversation of, how being a woman plays into it, as I'm trying to really reflect and think about this truthfully, because either I'm not, like, aware of it, or I genuinely don't it genuinely is not, like, a part of my psyche. But I do think growing up as a people pleaser, it probably is growing up as, like, a young girl who was bullied. I'm not, like, hammering that point home, because 'cause I'm fine with it, but, um, being a people pleaser, and over the years, even when I was starting out, and I don't know if you feel this way, but, like, really feeling like I had to, do what everyone else wanted me to do, and so my voice kind of got lost
Mm.
in whatever that was. And I think it might be a personality thing also, just being sensitive and shy, but over time, finding my confidence, I think, especially recently, and I would say you're right, within the last 5 years, to kind of lay my boundaries down and say, "This is what I wanna do, this is my
Yeah.
point of view," and I'm still trying to find that, because I still think, when I look at some of my stuff, I'm like, "Oh, maybe this actually isn't me, and why am I doing this?" So I think that comes with experience and confidence, and,
And it comes with
time.
respect from the magazines, right? It
Yeah,
all comes,
yeah,
it's a
or
trickle
comments
effect
everywhere.
around all of us. And also the team that you build around you that understand your aesthetic and
Yeah.
give you the vision that you have. And that I know when I first started, I was definitely known to be a chameleon as a photographer that I
Mhm.
can do anybody's style, and I went through all that. Like I would get
Totally.
calls up, well, we can't afford Peter Limber, but can you grab
So
some of those lights and throw in the back and make a little Peter Limber and throw some smoke behind it? And you're like, sure, you
totally.
do. Come on, we know. Can you do Ellen because we can't get Ellen? She's in Paris. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, she will kill me, but sure, let's try. But what I learned from that is this: no matter how hard I tried to be them, I could never be.
You have to go back to you, yeah.
But my work never was ever
Mhm.
became them. It always a reflection of them. It's influenced by them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I embraced the fact that I can go ahead and copy them because I'll never be able to and still create a vision of my own. It's when I
Mhm.
start loving doing that. Because when back
Mhm.
in school, when I went to art school, you copy Picasso, but you're not going to sell picture that you paint like Picasso. But through that journey, you learn how Picasso think, right? So
Mhm.
through the journey of trying to shoot what Herb Ritts would shoot, and how Testino would shoot, and all these amazing, how Annie Lee would just set up her lights, and I've been on her sets, I've seen it, I know it, and you go through the same process, and I know there's really specific moments I look at and go, okay, that's how Annie would do it, but I don't like it. It's not me. How do I then
Mhm.
take from this point to make it this point? Right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be here to here because I'm not gonna. It's not who I am at the time. I'm like I'm never gonna be from here to here with Annie. But I
Mm.
can take it from where she is and take it to my heart. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
kind of the method that I found myself through the work I do. That
Mhm.
I just go, well, this is who I am. This is how why I can do it. And thank you for the reference. And
Mhm.
now within the last few years, I love our industry more again, just because people are not calling me and say, "Can you choose Stephen Klein?" I'm like,
You're like,
"Thank you. Yes, I know Asian people. We're really good at copying stuff. We
yeah.
make stuff." But I will
Oh.
answer, yes, I can. But what part of Stephen Klein's work that you like that
Mhm.
reflects to my work that I can collaborate with his work? And at the end of the day, am I going to be proud of the work? Does it look like a Stephen Klein ripoff? Does it look like a
Mhm.
Yu Tsai photography? But
Mhm.
because of the movement, because there's so much feminism in our business now, I get calls now saying, you know our magazine, you know our DNA, and you know we celebrate women, so we want you to shoot those notions when you work. And that's the best graduation in our
Mhm.
education when it comes to growing in this industry. And that conversation started to happen more and more. And I see in people's work because of it. It's the antiquated magazines, I'm not going to name who they are. The high fashion magazines stay true to who they are to the point that I can open it 10 years ago and open it today. They look exactly the same, with just different
Mhm.
models' faces. I'm not inspired by them anymore.
Mhm.
You know, I donated all of them to Art Center Pasadena. I'm like, don't
Oh,
need this stack because I've
I
seen
love
it.
collecting
You know what I
magazines.
mean? I'm like, I've
Yeah.
seen this. When are you gonna do something
I also
now?
think, well, I think also what's happening now, with certain female photographers, but also photography in general, is people are leaning more towards art, which I think is really
Yes.
interesting. It's less about, a lot of incredible art photographers are getting hired for commercial jobs,
Love, 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 love.
or
And we're
like
gonna
big
meet some of those people this week. I mean, Kat in New
amazing.
York, I don't know you know her personally,
I don't
but
know her personally. No.
but and she was an Instagram photographer, and she still shoot a lot of stuff on Instagram. And the moment she came into the scene, I just go, "Oh my God!" They're singular images, not very much in a series, but each
Yeah.
individual images are so stunning and beautiful. And she recently shot a catalog for Bloomingdale's. You
Yeah.
swear to
See?
God, you picked up that catalog. It looked like it's from 1965. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
amazing.
romantic and beautiful. And it's like, I couldn't do it. First of all, I wasn't born in 1965, guys, so I don't know what that's like. But I really just like that's why I get so excited this week to learn from people like Kate Power, who does so
Mhm.
much photography at the same time doing so much philanthropic work around her that shapes the photography. You know,
That's
Anna Miki, who showed Vogue in the 90s and never wavered from her style, this lifestyle, but this gorgeous like freedom that she has that comes into a
Mhm.
body of work. And then you have a National Geographic photographer who is badass than any men photographer I know that climbed into the crocodile infested river trying to capture moments.
That's amazing.
That's what I'm inspired by now. You
Yeah.
know, and that's you guys. Thank you guys for that. It truly is. I think more photographer need to really take this time and look at why female photographer are the darling right now. Because it's time for you guys to learn from them. Because we're arrogant little bitches. Come
Well,
on.
I mean, the irony, it's not even irony. It's like, I think female artists and photographers have always been there, and the
Nan
voice has been
Goldens.
there. I know,
Yes.
incredible. And
You
now it's just
know,
like what you're
Sarah
saying is
Moon.
like, yeah, oh my God. I mean, epic, iconic people that are
Epic.
like groundbreaking. The voice and the perspective has been there, but I think what you're saying is the opportunity and
That's
the
right.
platform
The
has not been,
celebration.
yeah, exactly.
Celebrate. Join the
Yeah.
party. Listen, guys, what do they say? If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
Okay? Join.
Everyone has
And
to join everyone. I
totally
mean,
figure it out. Because one thing I respect about Ellen's work so much, and not only that she created this look for guests that I ended up shooting for 12 years. You know, I worked for guests
mhm.
for 12 years. I shot those images. Is that I got to learn how she sees women in a way
Mhm.
that's empowering. I just listened to a talk that she had this morning, and this makes me smile because she's the same person from today as she was 30 years ago. And that to me is incredible because she was way ahead of her time, celebrating women in the way women should be celebrated from back
Mhm.
then to now. And I'm still in that journey trying to figure out how to celebrate my own work. I honestly am still going through that journey and
Yeah.
take this time to learn from you guys, learn from my peers and young photographer and photographers that I don't even know, you
Yeah,
know?
for
And when I
sure.
got to see them on live, I'm like, let me check out their work. Oh my God, this
Yeah.
is brilliant. This is beautiful. And I am the first to know what category I am in this categorization of photographers. And I hope to develop more sensitive eye further about women's celebration and
Yeah,
empowerment in the way I capture them.
that's amazing.
That I would love.
That's great.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. We're running out of time. Now I know why
Yeah,
people
okay.
can talk to you for hours.
Oh my God. We have to It's like between us, but there's other people here. No, this has been so fun. I mean, do we answer questions or no? We just keep talking?
No, they can
Okay.
DM us
Oh,
later.
okay,
But
okay,
this is
okay. Like they can DM us. Okay,
because
cool.
truly, guys, if you guys want to get questions, most of the questions she answered them on all the different lives she's been on. Just DM Zoe.
Really?
She has great
Mhm.
answers for a lot of people. And your friend, the photographer, and
Alex?
Alexandra,
Yeah.
Alexandra, how you say it?
Alexandra.
Alexander,
Yes.
they have a 2-hour session of answering questions. She probably answered every possible question under the sun regarding photography. You guys should go and
That's
look
true.
at his amazing IG live. And by the way, everybody's out there doing IG live. Thank you guys so much for doing it, because it is bringing joy and happiness into our
Yeah,
life.
true.
And one of the things I do want to thank you for being here today, Zoe. By being here today, the part of the initiative for Let's Talk is that we donate 500 masks to first
Amazing.
responders in your name. So thank you for
That is so
being
cool.
here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so awesome that you're doing that. It's so cool.
We
that
do
you're
every
doing that.
little that we can, and we do as much as we can. And along the way, we're celebrating your work. So thank you
Thank
for being
you.
part of this community, and thank you for
Thank
keep
you for
doing
having
amazing work.
me. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to everything, you and everyone else. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Talk to you soon.
What an incredible, inspiring person. I love everything that she talked about today, and I just love celebrating her as a photographer and learn from her. Her work has grown so much in a way, but with consistency of sensitivity and technicality, and that's something that I think we all can continue to watch and learn. I can't wait to see the next story that she publishes. And through this time, we're all trying to find ways to be able to capture beauty once again, and we'll get there. Be patient, everyone. In the meantime, you guys, everybody stay safe and stay healthy out there. I'll see you guys again tomorrow.